cut from my hat, especially for the air conditioning this year. So last year we stood here running, we had a lot of paper towel going around. Though it's not easy, we're going to try and do it very quick and short. The only thing I'm here to talk to you about is my experience where I stood on a street corner for 2 years straight. Once Queens outside PS 201 and PS 173, and the next year outside PS 195. The way release time is structured, or actually took on a new structure, at least in the year that we were involved with it. There's 3 positions in release time. There's the teacher who actually is engaging the teams. There's the principal of the school, which I hope still exists, who coordinates the school, who's the go-to person for the school. And then there is the 3rd position, which is the recruiter. Beyond the shadow of a doubt, the most important position from within the entire release time that you see. Koilo, the office, the girl that packs the bags, the bus drivers, and all the Schwarzes on Utica Avenue and their 15 passengers, is the recruiter. There's no question about it. Now, over here last year, I stood and said how it's the hardest, and it could be the hardest, and I got some feedback that Fakert is Geschmack, and you should present it as being Geschmack. For those who already see it as Geschmack, we don't have to talk to. The recruiting position is a very, very, and perhaps the most challenging position, because the teacher standing here, he already gets the sipuk hanefesh. You're the principal of the school, you see a bunch of kids coming off a van, a bus, something, you have already a sipuk hanefesh. The recruiter can stand outside like you saw, in snow, in rain, or they're steht dort the Agoylum with cards that were printed in 1945, and he goes over to a lady who finds after 20 minutes of standing there by a dismissal that was the wrong time because it was the first week, he still didn't know when it was, and he goes over to her and he says, "Sir, ma'am, do you want to sign any release?" Kanyeshna? She's a babushka who's not the kid's parent. And this could go on for 4 weeks straight. Now, it's not the hardest. The recruiting position, as we know, Chassidus, the hardest, we know, is the ultimate. And the ultimate in this case is recruiting. And you have to know that it's hard. It takes a long time till you get that sipuk hanefesh. But you are the foundations of the other 2 positions. Because anish dir zeyam keinem zu lernen. There's a story that goes around at least time. The Didi Habauvda, I think it might have been said here before. Did anybody say the story with the dog?
No.
I stood outside a corner of PS 201. I knocked on a window. I'm going to try and be actually very quick without all the arichas. I knocked on a window. The lady started rolling up her window. The window was open. I came there. I started talking to the lady. She starts rolling up her window in my face. So I'm like, "Excuse me, man." And as the window's closing, I drop one of those cards through the window. And she drives off with that old, I don't know if they still have, that 3-fold blue pamphlet that Shazak printed like 30,000 and not Tufshin on Vogue when he started. He felt he wanted to get his money's worth. So, and that blue pamphlet, I dumped it in the window. The next week I remember it was an old Toyota green Previa on the corner of 201. It was a week later, 2 weeks later, I see the same van there with a babushka coming to pick up. I run over to the window, I say, "Man, did you get the pamphlet? Did you read it?" And this time she doesn't close the window. I start talking to the conversation goes, "Do you want to sign up, not want to sign up? Just try it. You don't have to come. If you don't want to call me up, sign the card now." She signs the card, I take the card, we're all excited, we got a kid. We call it to confirm that they're going to be leaving the school, whatever time, they're going to be coming here, because whenever they sign, you call up. It turns out, after the information we got, this was the grandmother who signed the card. The grandmother called up, she spoke over her daughter's conservative mindset. She's not coming. I hold the card, fine, you're not coming, back and forth, you're not coming. Fast forward, and this is a very, I'll include one point I was going to say already now. One of the biggest keys to recruiting is you never leave go of a card, never. of a number that you got, of a parent you never leave go. I put it in my jacket. One of the people who was going on Hanukkah, you do, this is the key, Bikurei Bayis. So we take out all the cards and we start calling the parents. No, you remember we met you, and by the way, we happen to be a block away from you. Maybe we could just come and drop off dreidels. So this, we split up the Bikurei Bayis. Shmuley Gazinski is a shliach now in Argentina, went over to this house. He recruited the kid, he fabranged with him. The kid came to release time. And he was there a whole year. And the next year he came again, and the next Bikurei Bayis, the mother told Shmuley Gazinski as follows. He says, I'm married to a goy. She says, I'm married to a non-Jew. And it came time for midnight mass. We geht nach Kloster, und das ist Kratzmach, und we geht celebrating. I don't know what they're going to do. And he turns to his kid. He says, David, come on, we're going. This kid was he was 5 when the story started. At the time he was 6. David, come, we're going to Kloster. The kid, David, turns to the father and says, Dad, I'm Jewish. Take Zulu, the dog, he can go with me. And Shmuley kept a kesher with him, he kept coming. And this is a very big key to recruiting. You stand and you wait and it's hard and you get a number and you never know. And you keep knocking down. Remember a year later by Bikurei Bayis, we got into certain houses where we couldn't. I'll just run through a few nekudas, and if anybody has questions about recruiting, I'd be happy to take questions because you guys have been sitting and listening to speeches for a very long time. And if you have any questions, or maybe Zalman's hinting the questions are later, but I would like to take some of my time if possible for questions. The kids are, it's very important that you get creative. You know, Rabbi Hecht was here, he was speaking very, very to the point. I was actually going to touch on it. In budgeting, there's fixed costs and there's per head costs. What's a fixed cost? If you have to make an event, you need to rent the space. That's a fixed cost, you need the space. Then there's a per head cost. How many hot dogs you have to order? Because if you have 10 people, you need 10 hot dogs. If you have 12, there's per head costs. So, if you think about it, Release Time is carrying all the fixed costs. They have an office. They have someone who comes and packs the bags. They have an infrastructure of drivers. They have an infrastructure of buses. They have an infrastructure of go-to people. All the fixed costs are there. They're carrying a huge budget. It's only a little bit more in the budget once you rent the hall. How much more could it cost for another few hot dogs and you load up your whole event? Release Time is carrying a huge budget of fixed costs. The amount that it's going to cost them to have another 2,000 kids is not compared to what they're carrying right now. So what's needed, and I never said this before, what's needed in Release Time and the Sikha, you watched it, it's Givaldi. In New York, I think there's a lot. Needs someone creative. It needs someone creative who's going to come up with an idea. And the Rebbe spoke about Aleph, the Aleph Institute. How was it born? The Rebbe stormed by Fabrengen about it. The Rebbe didn't tap this one, that one. The Rebbe stormed about the army and jails. Shomber Lipsker came along. And today they're reaching thousands of inmates and soldiers and khul. There are thousands of kids here in New York, and I'm telling you, if we changed perhaps the methods, maybe those blue flyers aren't working. Maybe it's time to change it up. Maybe flyers are outdated, who knows? It needs a creative 1 or 2 people that can come up with a creativity that can make a mapechel, a daily to bring these children into the schools. I'm going to run through a few nekudas in recruiting, and with that I'll conclude. It's very important that at Release Time, at least when I came in, this is what I was told. They said, I'll never forget, the first time I came in, they gave out this pamphlet also, I don't know when it was printed, it was a 4 Shazak's times, for sure. And it said like this, you take these candies, and you go outside the school, and what do? This is what it said. You go over to the kid, and you say, you want a candy? I love my You want a candy? What does a kid say when you want a candy? You want a candy? Give me your mother's number. I'll never forget, I was sitting with Zevi Schuster and Zevi Weinberg, who were like the older, they came back from Melbourne the year before me, and they recruited me into their school of Rls Time. I'm like, Zevi, is this what I'm supposed to do? Is it legal? I'm like, I'm not going to touch this. It's very important that when you brand your classes, when you actually engage the parent, there's so much we could go through if you meet up babushka that's not shaykh to the kid. There's a lot of details we could go through. I don't think the time allows it. You always, the most important thing that I found after a year and a half of going there is you walk up to someone, you say, did you hear, it's a very, you have an elevator pitch. You don't have a lot of time, you're on the corner of a sidewalk, you're running after them with the candies. You have to tell them, this is how I found the best pitch after a year and a half. Did you hear of PS 195's Jewish classes? Now what lies in this sentence is that you're not an outsider, you sound like I was commissioned by Mr. Foreman, the principal, 195, to run the Jewish classes. These are, a lot of times, it's the best pickup line that I've found. A lot of times, the parent will go, PS 195? PS 195 is called the Shutar. Why? Because it's a good school and their kid goes there and they scam the government to say they live in a different zip code to go to that school. So that PS, and a lot of schools is like that. When you say something in the name of PS 1 whatever, it's like, oh, their eyes open up. So that is a very good pickup line, and you have to brand yourself as like you're part of the school. What do you mean? This is, of course. In our year, after a few months, there were classes of kids who got up. There was a class of kids who got up. I used to go into the school to pick them up because I was the recruiter, just to get them on the bus and get them to the school. They used to announce over the megaphone in the whole school, all children attending the Rls Time program, please come down to the front. The whole school would hear about it. So you have to try and brand yourself as you are part of the school. That's the best pickup line. Be creative. We brought a mitzvah tank there. I remember Arla Matzah got designed signs. Someone spoke here about money. How do you get money from Shazak? You show you're bringing in kids, Shazak will give you unlimited credit card. We had an unlimited credit card when we were in Rls Time. Anything we asked from Shazak, we got. I don't know what the budget is now. It sounds like they're struggling. But if you show you're bringing in kids, Shazak will support you. Beyond.
In a few seconds, we're going to take questions. A few moments, we'll take questions. So here's how it's going to work. If you could text it to my number, you have 10